Hey sis, welcome or welcome back to the channel. I am the Black Woman Essayist, the creator and founder of Notes on Black Women on Substack, and also here on YouTube. So listen, a few weeks ago, if you were here, if you caught it, I put out an essay on what Black women need to know about reproductive coercion. If you missed that, I'll link it here or link it here. It will be somewhere in the corner, so you can check that out. And basically, I let everybody know what a particular study was saying about men's behaviour, baby trapping behaviour, we can call it, but it's reproductive coercion, and how this impacts Black women. Since then, I haven't left it alone. I've been going deeper down the rabbit hole, and I've found maybe 2 or 3 other studies that also confirm a lot of the things that Black women have said and Black women have felt. Take a listen to this week's essay. Everything is timestamped down below. And these are a few facts and data specific things that we need to know. I'll catch you on the other side at the end of the essay for my final commentary. Hey sis, how many times have you been pregnant when you didn't want to be? It's a simple question, a painful question, and for many Black women, a revealing one. A study published in 2024 asked women exactly that. In racial, ethnic differences, in women's experiences of reproductive coercion, intimate partner violence, and unintended pregnancy. This is the name of the study, and I will link it in the description box for you. As I mentioned in my previous essay, the study behind the viral Black men and baby trapping conversation, reproductive coercion is not a conspiracy theory. It's not an internet talking point, and it's not a gender war discussion. And I will link that essay for you up in the right-hand side of the corner as I'm speaking now, if you are catching this on YouTube. This is actually documented behaviour by men. We've already had the research in the first study where Black male participants openly discussed pressuring women into pregnancy, interfering with contraception, and using pregnancy as a way to maintain access, control, or attachment to a female partner. Based on this, the question is no longer whether reproductive coercion exists. The question is no longer who experiences it the most. The question is also no longer whether Black women are disproportionately impacted by this, as across both studies so far that I have found, Black women consistently reported higher levels of reproductive coercion and unintended pregnancy than any other race of woman. Therefore, the question is now, what does this mean for Black women? And how do we respond to this? Also, as a deeper question, which Black women by age and marital status are more likely to experience this behaviour from men? What stood out the most to me was the age of Black women who appeared most vulnerable and its effects on the women, and also her relationship status with the man played a big part. This was linked to her experiences of reproductive coercion. So, here are the key facts for Black women to note around this key study that I'm going to share with you today. Firstly, it reconfirms and validates again that Black women experience reproductive coercion at higher rates than other races of women. It also confirms that there is a clear link between unexpected pregnancy and the mental health of the mother and the well-being of the child. It also confirms that Black women reported at lower rates that they had experienced domestic violence than white women. However, this is consistent with further research I discovered a few years ago, which confirms that Black women are less likely to admit or report domestic violence. What they're more likely to do is defend their violent Black male partners. Now, this data came from a research study by Corbin Place. I will link this in the description box if you want to take a look at that. The study also was carried out on Black women and non-Black women who used a family planning clinic in San Francisco in the USA. Lastly, as mentioned in the introduction, I want to remind you that even though this is an American study, findings will probably resonate with Black women throughout the diaspora because many of the cultural expectations placed on us and the patterns shown in this study are not unique to the USA, and they are not unique to just Black American women. A standout point from the above facts that the researchers found was the clear link between unintended pregnancy, maternal well-being, mental health outcomes for the child and the mother. So in other words, the impact of men's behaviour towards women extends far beyond just conception. It affects more lives, futures, families and black mothers in particular. Which raises another question. If black women continue to experience reproductive coercion and unintended pregnancy at higher rates than other groups of women, what are we supposed to do? If behaviours identified in previous research involving black male participants confirms that they are using these behaviours with black women, how do we actually respond as a way of protecting ourselves? The answer, I believe, starts with understanding data from these studies that are being shown to us, and in particular this study, because the patterns will tell stories, and this is a story that black women really need to pay attention to. What the study's data shows about black women and non-black women's experiences. So 1,234 women were participants in this study. They were white, black, Hispanic, Latina, multiracial, and American, Indian or Native or other women. The numbers of women within each race who took part that were black, white, Hispanic or Latina, these women all had similar rates of participation, which shows us that black women's and women of colour's experiences can be compared to white women in a fair way due to them having similar numbers in the study. The study made a clear link to unexpected pregnancy and each woman's direct experience of reproductive coercion or baby trapping behaviours by men. To reconfirm, the first study already confirmed reproductive coercion in men as behaviours as follows: pressure for their female partner to become pregnant, interrupting a woman's birth control, telling women they need to get pregnant, if they do not, they will leave them, and lastly, men admitting that they wanted control or they wanted to control the outcome and destiny of a woman via pregnancy. By definition, further, in 2013, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists stated that reproductive coercion behaviours are described as behaviours intended to maintain power and control in a relationship related to reproductive health. So, according to the study, when they asked the women, have you experienced unexpected pregnancy? This is how the women responded. 50.3% of black women responded yes. 54.8% of Hispanic, Latina women responded yes. 47.2% of multiracial women responded yes. 37.1% of white women responded yes, and 40.5% of native descent women responded yes. So here we can see that the data supports the first study's claims in unexpected pregnancy, that it is experienced at higher rates by black women and what we could say are women of colour. Another question that this study was able to answer: who had higher rates of direct experiences of reproductive coercion with men? Black women again had higher responses to whether they had been directly reproductively coerced or baby trapped by men. So we see from the data that 37.1% of them responded yes. What this shows us is that from the 50% of women who had an unexpected pregnancy to the first question, more than half of these women directly linked their unexpected pregnancy to a partner who had carried out reproductive coercion behaviours with them. Looking at the data closer, I could see that this was also a similar pattern for Hispanic and Latina women and also multiracial women. However, it was black women who had the highest rate of responding a direct yes to baby trapping experiences, or what they technically call reproductive coercion. Okay, sis, so if you've made it this far and you've stuck with me, then thanks so much for listening into the full essay. These were just a few key facts and statistics from this particular study. And all I can really say about this is we need to be very aware of what's going on, and also do not allow ourselves to be gaslit by the talking point that we often here that's attached to us as black women. We hear it a lot from men. She trapped me with a baby. The data, the research, it's not really kind of supporting that argument that they're trying to say about us. So just keep that in mind and beware. The other thing I want to say as well is it is worth keeping in mind that while these are small studies, and this one was done at a family planning clinic in the States, they are small studies, but it doesn't mean that they are not of value, because what it does do is it confirms what women are experiencing, even if there's only about maybe 1,000 or 2,000 women who took part in the study. So don't look at it and think, well, this can't be an accurate picture, or this isn't a broad picture because it's a small study. As I said to you in the introduction, this is not the only study. This particular one that I shared with you today and the one that I shared a few weeks ago, I'll link it up here. If you haven't watched that or here, it might pop up somewhere here as I'm talking on the outro. And I will keep digging down this rabbit hole and seeing what I can find. And anything that is of interest, I will be bringing it here to you, to black women. So if you do enjoy this kind of content, then, you know, why not subscribe to the channel? I'd love to see you here again. You can join me on Substack as well, where I write daily for black women. I am a numerologist and I share the diaspora number, which is the numerology for the day's date for black women. I also share daily notes for black women, which can be on various different subjects. It really just depends on what's coming up for the day. There will be a link in the description box below. And before you go, let me tell you what's going on for June on Notes on Black Women on Substack. Every last Sunday of the month, there is a women's circle. If you've never been to a women's circle, I might link a little video up here or here, because I did do one on women's circles, or there'll be a link in the description box to an article I've written. And basically, this is a gathering for black women around the diaspora. It doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter your age group, it really doesn't matter. You can come along. We meet for about an hour, hour and a half, and I tend to kind of keep the theme open. You know, it's just a place for us to basically engage and talk about black women's needs. But it's not group therapy. It's not a trauma dumping session either. It is actually a space that I've created with a purpose. So I'm not going to say too much about it here and make the outro too long. Just check out the links in the description box. Put my teeth back in if you want to know more. Also in June, I'm going to be hosting a webinar, and this webinar is going to be on the topic of black women and numerology. And you might think, well, why do I need to know about this? This isn't something of interest for me. It really is useful for black women to know, or for any woman, but especially for black women, because that's who I centre here on this channel. Their core numbers, like their life path number, like their soul's urge number, because it can explain a lot about your life experiences and it can help you to navigate life as well. Quick example, my soul urge number is number 7, and so that is a number where you are linked to things like teaching, learning, higher education, sharing knowledge. I was a high school teacher, or a secondary school teacher, we'd call it in the UK, for a decade, and I did this job before I even studied numerology or knew anything about it. So it can really correlate with your life experiences, is what I'm trying to say. And if you want to know more, there is a link in the description box. Come along. It will be hosted on Zoom. And if you can't make the live event, then don't worry, the replay will be sent to you and it will be available for everyone. So come along and have some fun. Also, what we've also got going on Notes on Black Women is we'll have the end of the month newsletter as always. I put one out every month, normally towards the end. So if you do want to keep up with what's going on, what articles have been written, because I try to share as much as I can here on YouTube, but I'll be honest with you, I am very active on Substack. You can sign up for the Notes on Black Women newsletter as well. There will be a link in the description box. So I think that's it for today. That's all I'm going to share for now, and I'll come back to you soon with what else I find on this subject of reproductive coercion and anything else you need to know. Sorry about that. The doorbell just rang. I'm sorry if you heard it. I was waiting for a delivery. So the mailman just came. So as I was saying, sis, you know, if you have experience of reproductive coercion, if you've been through this before, if you know someone who has, drop me a comment. Let me know how this resonates for you and what are your thoughts on this. And what do you think Black women can do to protect themselves from this? Because obviously, as I mentioned in the full article when I wrote about this particular study, it's one thing to understand and intellectually, you know, comprehend what's going on, and it's one thing to information gather for Black women. But once we've done all that, what do we do? What's our response? You let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you in the next one. I'll see you soon.